My name is Emily Carter. I'm 34, and last Christmas, I found out my entire family lied to me. Again. But this time, it wasn't a subtle dig or a forgotten invitation. This time, they planned the whole thing behind my back and made sure I'd be nowhere near their perfect little gathering. It started with a text from my mom the night before Christmas Eve. "Stay safe, sweetheart. The snow's coming in heavy. Kayla decided to cancel dinner. Everyone's staying home." Nothing else. No warmth, no apology, no promise to reschedule. Just a "stay safe" and a silent shove out of the way. I believed her, because I always believed her, because that's what a daughter is supposed to do, right? Even when the words don't sit quite right, even when they taste like aluminum and manipulation. I made myself peppermint hot chocolate, tucked into a chunky sweater, and queued up an old Christmas rom-com, trying, as usual, to play the good sport. The understanding one, the quiet sister who never made a fuss. At 3:12 p.m., I opened Instagram, just to scroll, just to kill the ache of being alone on a holiday. That's when I saw it. A boomerang from my cousin Tara, clinking wine glasses and a table glittering with red velvet napkins, charcuterie boards, candles, Carter family Christmas, pretty pink heart, sparkly. So grateful, so full. I froze. Swiped. Another photo. My parents, side by side, smiling in matching sweaters. Dad carving a golden brown turkey. Kayla, my sister, posing in front of her 6-foot balsam fir, a niece on each hip. Every single person in my family at Kayla's house. Every single person who stayed home because of the storm. The sky behind them was clear, blue. Not a snowflake in sight. The lie wasn't lazy, it was calculated. I felt my heart claw at my chest like it was trying to scream. They'd done it, really done it, lied to me. Sat around a table, raised glasses, posed for pictures, and deliberately pretended I didn't exist. I shouldn't have been surprised, but this time, something broke. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my mug. I just sat there, phone shaking in my hand, watching my family laugh without me. And I thought, how many times has this happened? How many birthdays and barbecues and Sunday brunches were I told, "Oh, plans changed," while they clinked glasses in another room? That night, I didn't sleep. I just scrolled, watched every story, every post, over and over again, screenshotted everything, studied smiles like they were evidence. Because they were. Because this wasn't just about Christmas anymore. Before I can continue my story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching right now, drop your city and your local time in the comments. I want to know who's awake with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. They say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes it curdles into something you can't even drink. The thing about being the invisible one is, eventually, you get good at pretending you don't mind. Growing up, Kayla was the golden thread in the family quilt. All twirls and tantrums and sparkly messes. She could spill red Kool-Aid on the white carpet, and Mom would laugh like it was a magic trick. I'd stack my spelling bee trophies on the sideboard, and they'd collect dust next to the unpaid water bill. She was light. I was maintenance. That's just how it went. At school, I was the straight A planner, the type who read every assigned novel twice and tutored classmates for free. Kayla dropped out of community college to follow her intuition, dyed her hair coral pink, and declared she was opening a yoga studio with zero business experience and a GoFundMe page that our entire extended family shared like it was a cause for sainthood. And yet, she was always the one who belonged. Not because she tried harder, but because she didn't have to try at all. They said I was too sensitive, too rigid, not fun at parties. You know what's not fun at parties? Spending 10 years cleaning up after everyone and still being called selfish for sitting down first. But I never said that. I just smiled, helped pass the dishes, and made sure Dad's pills were organized before I left. Even when I paid off part of their mortgage after a layoff, they never called me generous, just so responsible. Kayla got a new iPhone for bringing gluten-free brownies to a family picnic. That was the year they forgot my birthday. And it's not like I was perfect. I had bad days. I snapped sometimes. I got tired of being helpful. But I swallowed it down, pushed through, stayed the course, because I thought maybe, just maybe, if I kept showing up, they'd finally notice I'd been standing there the whole time. But that Christmas Day, watching them clink their wine glasses without me, fake storm be damned, it hit me. They didn't forget me, they excluded me. On purpose. Because somewhere along the way, I became the family's ghost. Not loud enough to demand space, not sweet enough to be adored, just useful, just background. Useful until I asked to be included, useful until I stopped being silent. I wish I could say that realization came with a clean, empowering clarity, but honestly, it felt like being slowly erased with an old eraser, bits of me crumbling off while they reshaped the story. And still, part of me whispered, maybe they had a reason. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you weren't enough. Maybe Kayla just needed this one thing. That voice had always been louder than it should have been. The one that told me I didn't belong because I wasn't like them. But that voice started to flicker, like static on a cheap radio, right around the time I picked up my phone and reread that text from Mom for the 10th time. Everyone's staying home because of the snow. And yet, there they were, laughing in matching plaid pajamas in a house I helped renovate with my tax return 3 years ago. And I thought, this isn't accidental. This isn't one bad moment. This is the story they've been You know what really guts you? It's not just the lies. It's remembering all the ways you bent yourself into silence. All the little sacrifices you made, hoping someone would see you bleed and say thank you. I used to think if I was helpful enough, useful enough, low maintenance enough, maybe I'd earn a seat at their table. Not the folding chair from the garage either. A real seat. The kind with a name card and a glass of wine already poured. I remember one summer, Dad needed a complicated surgery. Kayla posted a beach selfie from Tulum while I took unpaid leave to drive him to physical therapy. I bathed him when he couldn't lift himself, pureed vegetables, sat beside his bed every night, holding a bucket when the meds made him nauseous. Mom would text updates to the family group chat, always, "Kayla's been checking in every day, such a sweet soul." Not a word about me cleaning vomit from his slippers. But I didn't say anything. I thought, it's not about credit. You do it because it's right. I thought that every damn time. Like when I helped them sort through Grandpa's attic after he passed. Kayla showed up late, took 3 vintage coats, and left early to cleanse the energy at her studio. Mom told everyone, Kayla helped us so much. She's just very intuitive with memories. I was the one who boxed up his medals and wiped down the walls. I was the one who found his will and cried alone in the garage. But again, I stayed quiet because I wanted to be good. I wanted to be seen as kind. I wanted to be part of something. I brought homemade pies to Thanksgiving, made little place cards, took the family photo. Kayla brought store-bought stuffing and still got the toast from Dad. To Kayla for keeping our spirits high. And when I did speak up, just once, when Mom said I hadn't helped enough, I saw it. That look. Like I was breaking the rules of some unspoken game. See, in our family, Kayla could fall apart and be called free-spirited. I could fall apart and be called dramatic. She got celebrated for showing up late. I got punished for being early and expecting a thank you. I used to think I was paranoid, sensitive, that I was reading into things, that maybe I was the problem. But that Christmas post changed something. Because it wasn't just that they excluded me, it was that they constructed an entire fiction around it and expected me to believe it, like a stupid, loyal side character. Like my feelings were as disposable as wrapping paper. All those years of keeping my head down, trying to be useful, trying to not make waves, what did it buy me? An empty apartment, a silent phone, a fake storm, and a real heartbreak. And suddenly, I didn't want to be quiet anymore. Not because I thought it would fix anything, but because I was starting to realize.
The next morning, my phone lit up. Mom. I stared at it ringing, let it go once, twice, 3 times, then answered on the 4th, heart beating like a bass drum in my throat. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, voice syrupy sweet, as if we'd just spoken yesterday and everything was fine. "Hope you had a peaceful Christmas. We missed you." Missed me? I gripped the phone tighter, jaw clenched. For a second, I almost let her keep going. I almost let the lie ride because I'd been trained to. Trained to smooth things over, make them easier for everyone else to swallow, even if it choked me. But not this time. "Really?" I said. My voice was calm, too calm. Because Tara's stories looked like everyone had a wonderful time at Kayla's. Sunny skies, full house, no storm. Silence. Long, quiet, terrible silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end, and I imagined her face, the same look she gave me as a child when she got caught moving presents around to make Kayla's pile look bigger. "Oh, well, you know how Kayla can be. Last-minute decisions. She wanted to keep it small, and you know, you're not always the most comfortable at these kinds of gatherings." There it was, the pivot, the gaslight flickering to life. "You mean quiet? You mean I don't take up space like Kayla? You mean I make people uncomfortable because I don't scream every sentence across the room?" "You're being dramatic," she sighed. "We just didn't want to make anything awkward. Kayla wanted it to be perfect." There was that word again, perfect, as if my presence somehow cracked the porcelain. I laughed, but it sounded bitter. "So, you told me a snowstorm was coming? You lied? To make sure I'd stay home?" She didn't deny it. She just exhaled hard, the way she always did when I refused to let things go. "Emily, you're always working, always too busy. You don't make time for family and then act shocked when you're out of the loop."
Busy. You mean paying off their mortgage, driving dad to appointments, cleaning grandpa's attic alone? That kind of busy? I didn't say any of that out loud. Not yet. Instead, I said something else. Something that had been echoing in my head since the moment I saw that post. How many other times have you lied to me? More silence. Not defensive, not angry, just quiet, which told me everything. Emily, if this is how you're going to act, maybe it's better we take some space. You always do this. You always overreact. That's when I knew. This wasn't about a single Christmas. This was about years, decades of rewriting reality to suit themselves, of pretending love looked like guilt and gaslight. She hung up. Just like that.
The moment that call ended, I didn't cry. I didn't scream or throw my phone or crawl into bed with the lights off like I might have done years ago. No. I opened my laptop and pulled up the screenshots. Every photo, every story, every timestamp. My hand moved faster than my thoughts, but my thoughts were sharpening like glass. This wasn't a moment of heartbreak anymore. This was documentation. A catalog of betrayal with captions and filtered smiles. I created a new folder on my desktop. Carter Family Evidence. I copied in Mom's fake snowstorm text, the Instagram posts from Tara, Kayla, even Dad. A photo with Kayla's front yard in the background, no snow, just sunlight and smiles. A screen recording of my weather app, no storm, no alerts, nothing even remotely close. And then I opened my email. To Diane Carter, Robert Carter, Kayla Carter. CC, Tara Blake, Aunt Cheryl, Uncle Dave, Grandma June, Cousin Ian, Cousin Maya. Subject, let's not pretend this didn't happen. No hi, no soft landing. Just, I saw the photos, the Christmas dinner you told me was canceled, the storm that never existed. You didn't just forget me. You lied to me, deliberately. And now I need you to know that I know. I attached the screenshots. I didn't bother being polite. I didn't code it in understanding or give them an out. I'd given them enough outs for a lifetime. I ended with, next time you plan to exclude someone, be smarter about hiding it. Or don't lie at all. Just admit what you are. And I hit send. The replies came quickly. Aunt Cheryl, we thought plans had changed. You weren't left out on purpose. Uncle Dave, let's not blow this out of proportion, Emily. Everyone loves you. Tara, no email, just her stories deleted in a DM. Why are you stirring up drama? You weren't even invited. Why make it worse? Then came Kayla's email. Pages long, full of spiritual bypassing and passive aggression in pastel fonts. She wrote, I just wanted one peaceful holiday. You never enjoy these things anyway. I didn't think it was fair to bring your energy into a space that was meant to be joyful. I did it for you, Emily. You always look so miserable at family stuff. Like she'd done me a favor. Like loneliness was a gift. I closed the tab, then opened the next one. Dad. A single paragraph that read like a cease and desist. Emily, we've always done our best. It's unfortunate you've chosen to air grievances this way. Respect for family privacy is important. Let's move forward maturely. And then, Mom. No email, no text. She called again. 3 days later, I got a Facebook message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. Linda Monroe. She'd been my parents' financial advisor back when I was in high school, a family friend in the old school sense. Christmas cards, summer barbecues, hugs that smelled like lavender, and tax forms. Her message was short. Emily, I've seen some of what's happening online. I think there's something you need to know. Can we meet? We agreed on a coffee shop near Pearl Street. Neutral, public, quiet. I wore a gray hoodie and sunglasses like I was going to a secret meeting. And honestly, I was. She was already there when I walked in, a manila envelope sitting in front of her like a loaded weapon. She looked older, thinner, nervous. We ordered coffee, no small talk. She pushed the envelope across the table. Her hand was trembling. I shouldn't have kept this from you, she said, but your father insisted, said it was family business, said you knew. What? I asked, already feeling something shift inside my chest. The inheritance, she said. Your grandfather left money for you, for your future. I stared at her, my fingers numb against the cardboard heat sleeve of my coffee. What money? She nodded toward the envelope. $250,000 in a trust, specifically earmarked for your education and property. I was the trustee until your father had me removed. He said you signed over power of attorney when you turned 18. My head spun. My mouth tasted like pennies. I remembered the day exactly. Mom had rushed me through paperwork after a minor car accident, said it was a formality for emergencies. I didn't read it. I just signed. Inside the envelope were copies of that very form and bank statements, real estate records, transfers made to accounts in Kayla's name. It was supposed to be yours, Emily, Linda whispered. You were the beneficiary. He redirected the entire amount, then used your signature to liquidate your portion of your grandfather's properties. Said it was to fund family medical expenses. But look at the trail. I looked. The trail didn't lead to hospitals. It led to Kayla's yoga retreats, her failed clothing line, her loft in Denver. It led to their mortgage being paid off. It led to the family emergencies I'd been covering myself with weekend shifts and skipped vacations. I've been sick over it for years, Linda said. But when I saw how they're treating you now, trying to spin a story, I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I cleared off my kitchen table, spread out every document Linda had given me, and opened my laptop. A fresh Excel sheet blinked up at me like a blank confession. They raised an accountant, after all. Line by line, I began tracking the money trail, starting with the trust, then the property deeds, then every business investment into Kayla's ventures that had mysteriously disappeared within a year. I pulled tax returns, cross-referenced routing numbers, opened old bank statements they must have forgotten I still had access to. It was all there. Every wire transfer signed in my name, every account reallocated by Robert Carter with a cheerful note about family sustainability. $253,741.28 siphoned out of what should have been my future. I didn't cry. I didn't even scream. I just kept typing, the way I had always coped, with systems, logic, data. Around 3 a.m., I found her. Natalie Reyes, lawyer.
estate fraud and financial exploitation specialist. Ivy League trained, but not the kind who smiled politely while brushing you off. She had a quote on her site that said, "Just because it's family doesn't mean it's not theft." I emailed her at 3:17 a.m. By 10:04, she'd replied. By 2 p.m., we were in a video call. I showed her the documents, the power of attorney, the trail of transfers, Linda's signed statement. She nodded slowly as I walked her through it. When I finished, she leaned back and said, "This isn't just unethical, Emily. It's criminal. They used forged authority to liquidate assets and transfer funds under false pretenses. That's financial abuse, and it's prosecutable." I exhaled. It felt like opening a pressure valve I hadn't known was there. "So what happens now?" I asked. "It depends on what you want," she said. "We can go full legal, charges, court, restitution, or we give them a chance to settle quietly, admit guilt, return the funds, sign a confession. No prison, but no more lies." I thought about Kayla's designer yoga mats, her organic retreats in Tulum, her matching gold rings with Mom. I thought about the Christmas turkey, the matching sweaters, my mother's voicemail saying, "We just didn't want to make anything awkward." I said, "I want to give them one chance, just one." She smiled, but there was no softness in it, only steel. "We'll draft the letter. We'll give them the choice. But Emily, don't expect decency from people who built their comfort on your silence." I nodded. And for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need to be decent either. I needed to be clear, precise, documented. They'd wanted me quiet, invisible, accommodating. They had underestimated the wrong Carter, and I was done playing the role they wrote for me. It was time they met the version of me they'd created through betrayal. The one who had proof, the one who had power, the one who wasn't asking for inclusion anymore, only justice.
Saturday morning. My apartment smelled like fresh coffee and clarity. On the table, 3 folders labeled Mom, Dad, Kayla. Inside each, copies of bank statements, legal documents, and power of attorney records, and a letter from Natalie Reyes outlining 2 options: restitution and signed confession, or criminal prosecution. I wore a simple black sweater and jeans, no makeup, no jewelry, no emotion. They arrived 10 minutes late, Kayla in a cream trench coat, like she'd just come from an influencer brunch, Mom in pearls, Dad in that old leather jacket he always wore when he wanted to seem reasonable. They looked around the room like it was a courtroom they hadn't realized they were on trial in. "Emily," Mom began. That tight smile stretched across her face. "We're so glad you reached out. We've all been so upset." I said nothing, just gestured to the seats. 3 across from me, 3 folders, 3 lives about to split open. Kayla went first. "You've really hurt a lot of people this week. Mom's been crying every day. Why didn't you just talk to us like family?" I slid the folders across the table, 1 to each. "Before anyone says anything else, read those carefully." The silence that followed was a living thing. Dad flipped his open first. I watched his face change color 3 times. Mom skimmed and froze at the photocopy of the power of attorney. This isn't what you think it is." Kayla stared at the highlighted transactions. "What is this? These aren't my accounts." "Except they are,"
I traced them. Each deposit, each withdrawal, every dollar you used to fund your retreats and lease your studio came from my trust. The one Grandpa left for me. Mom's voice went tight. Emily, you're being vindictive. No, I'm being thorough. Dad slammed his folder shut. Where did you get this? This isn't admissible. You don't know what you're doing. Actually, I replied, I do. I'm an accountant, remember? You used my power of attorney to liquidate my inheritance. You sold property meant to be split equally, and you redirected every cent into Kayla's life like I didn't exist. Kayla's hands were shaking. I didn't know. They told me it was from the family savings. I tilted my head. Then why are the accounts in your name? Why were the wire memos labeled Business Investment Kayla? She didn't answer. Mom leaned forward. Sweetheart, think about what this will do to the family. What people will say. You should have thought about that before you used my name like a debit card. You have 48 hours to sign the confession, begin restitution, or I file with the DA. Linda's already agreed to testify. They panicked. Mom begged, Dad raged, Kayla sobbed. I didn't move. I said, you wanted me quiet, but you built that comfort on theft, They didn't meet the deadline. 48 hours passed like clockwork, and the only response I got was a series of frantic voicemails. First from Mom, her voice trembling with practiced innocence, then Kayla, begging for just a little more time, and finally, Dad, all gruff and controlled fury. If you go through with this, you're not just burning bridges, you're burning the whole damn family. He said it like a threat. I took it as a promise. Because the bridge I'd been walking on wasn't made of wood, it was made of lies. Flammable, flimsy, and already scorched from their end. So, I handed everything over to Natalie. By that Friday afternoon, the wheels were in motion. Subpoenas, official filings, statements from Linda, and notarized records. We filed formal charges of financial exploitation, misrepresentation, and fraud. Natalie told me to brace myself, but I already had. For months, for years. It took 72 hours before the news hit. Monday morning, my father was escorted out of his golf club in handcuffs. They said it was disorderly conduct, but the truth was simple. The warrant had landed. He'd tried to shred some documents that day. Kayla's Yoga studio was frozen as an asset under investigation. Her business Instagram went from daily affirmations to private overnight. Her last post, Choose Peace, Not Drama, 2 Peaks, 7 Plaza, was eaten alive by comments. Peace funded by your sister's trust fund? Namaste with stolen money, huh? The local paper ran a headline. Boulder family faces legal fallout over inheritance scandal. I didn't have to say a word. The documents said everything, and so did the silence. The family group chat, which had once buzzed with Kayla's vacation photos and Mom's casseroles, go dead quiet. For 3 days. Then came the second wave, the public relations cleanup. Cousin Tara deleted all her Christmas photos. Aunt Cheryl texted me, "We didn't know, Emily. We were just going by what your parents said." Right. And yet no one had asked why I wasn't there that day. Not one person had noticed the empty chair. Kayla texted me one sentence, "You've ruined everything." I replied, "No, I just stopped protecting what was already broken." Even the family friends who had known me since I was a kid began to whisper, message, reach out. We had no idea. You were always the quiet one. Good for you, seriously. Mom's last Hail Mary was to show up at my office. She caused a scene in the lobby, crying, spinning a tale about a misunderstanding, claiming I was being manipulated. Security asked her to leave. When she was gone, the receptionist turned to me and said softly, "You handled that like a boss." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Not the bitter kind, not the hollow kind. Just relief. Cold, clean relief. They spent so long telling the world I was the unstable one, the bitter one, the damaged sister who couldn't let go of the past. But in the end, I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to throw punches or write public essays. I had the receipts, I had the law, and most of all, I had...
1 year later, I watched snow fall outside my window in Asheville. Real snow this time, not the metaphorical kind that hides a trail behind polite excuses. Just soft flakes brushing pine trees. Honest, gentle, and free. I moved here 6 months ago, after the case wrapped. The court ordered restitution. Dad and Mom both took plea deals, avoiding prison, but forced to pay back a large portion of what they stole. Kayla's studio was dissolved as part of the asset recovery. She now works as a receptionist at a wellness center in Durango. None of them speak to me anymore. I used to think that kind of silence would gut me, but now it's like turning off background static I never realized was draining me. Most of the extended family fell away too. No Christmas cards, no invitations. A few cousins messaged apologies, but I learned to weigh words against actions. Some debts can't be repaid with "we didn't know." And yet, I don't miss any of it. I've built something new here. It's quiet, yes, but it's a quiet I chose. My job transferred easily. Numbers don't change just because people do. I joined a book club where nobody asks what your sister does. I take long walks and sometimes sit in cafes with my laptop, journaling just to remind myself, you didn't imagine it. It happened, you survived, you're free. A few weeks ago, Linda came to visit. We met at a local diner. She handed me an old photo album she'd found while clearing out her storage unit. Inside, me and Grandpa sitting on the dock of his cabin. I was maybe 9, fishing pole in hand. He was pointing at the water mid-laugh. On the back, in faded ink, Emily is the strong one. She doesn't need a spotlight to shine. I closed the album and looked at Linda. She smiled gently. She always knew they favored Kayla. But he told me once, Emily's got something deeper. She'll carry it all until she doesn't have to anymore. And now, I don't have to anymore. They can keep their perfect photos, their crafted narratives. I've stepped out of their story altogether. I used to think family was everything, that no matter how bad it got, you stuck it out. You swallowed the hurt. You dimmed your light. But that's not family. That's a performance. And I'm done auditioning. I've learned that chosen peace is louder than inherited chaos. That truth doesn't need applause to be valid. That sometimes walking away is the bravest, kindest thing you can do for yourself. I still get sad sometimes. Grief doesn't vanish just because the court agrees with you. But the sadness isn't for what I lost. It's for how long I thought I deserved so little. And maybe that's the most dangerous thing about being overlooked for so long. You forget what it feels like to take up space. But now I remember, and I'm not giving that up again. We all have moments when the truth crashes through the walls we've spent years pretending weren't there. Mine wrapped in Christmas lights and silence, but it led me here, to justice, to peace, to freedom. If you've ever been excluded, silenced, or rewritten in your own story, you're not alone. You're not overreacting, and you don't need permission to leave a table where you're only fed guilt. Have you ever uncovered a painful family truth